So welcome again for this lecture today. So today we will be speaking on program control instructions and assembly language programming. This is going to be third chapter of our curriculum. So far we have completed two chapters. First chapter was based on completely hardware aspect of microprocessor, 8086 microprocessor, and second chapter was dealing with three different group of instructions: data transfer instructions, arithmetic instructions, and logical instructions. So these three, data transfer, arithmetic, and logical instructions, were, or I can say, are three important group of instructions of 8086 microprocessor. And today we are going to discuss program control instruction. In fact, third chapter deals with two different aspects: program control instructions, process control instructions, and assembly language programming. But today most likely we'll be speaking only on program control instruction, and maybe maybe in next week we will focus on assembly language programming. Now, little bit about the program control instruction. Why do we need program control instruction? I don't know whether you are familiar with HRS's microprocessor programming, because you may not be, you may not have come across microprocessor program, but I'm sure you must be knowing high-level language program or in general program. So we have, in fact, right in the beginning of this semester, when we started our classes, very first class I told you about program, what the program means. Program is a set of instruction. Program is set of instruction to to complete a particular task. A set of instruction to complete a particular task is nothing but program. Now, question is, what would be that set of, what would be that task? Task could be anything. Task could be anything. Let us say addition of two numbers, okay? Or this is simple task I'm talking about: multiplication of two numbers, division of two numbers, or to get sum of n numbers, or square root of the number, or square of the number. This is what the task is all about, right? Or let us say, if you are using microprocessor programming in industrial control, then you will be controlling some operations. Let us say in industry you have some atom to be picked up from one place and it is to be dropped at other place. Okay, so that is going to be one action. Like you will be writing one program to pick one particular atom from one particular place and it is going to be dropped at another place. So this could be a task. Okay, so whenever you will be writing set of instruction to perform that particular task, that is nothing but program. Now, whenever we are talking about execution of program, the instructions would be executed sequentially. Let us say if there are 10 instructions in the program, then all those 10 instructions are going to be executed sequentially. Sequentially means, first of all, the first instruction will be executed, second instruction will be executed, then third, then fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, and ninth. This is how the flow of program execution is going to be. So usually the program is going to be executed sequentially. Now if, just wait. So if you want to break sequential execution of program, then what can be done? Sequential execution, if you want to break, what I mentioned right in the beginning, program always, program is like, usually whenever program is executed, it would be a sequential execution of program. Sequential execution, what I mean, all, as I mentioned earlier, if there are 10 instructions, then all those instructions are going to be executed sequentially one after other. And sometimes it may happen that you need to break that sequential execution. Like, let me give you the general example. Um, let us say um, I have given you one task. The task is I ask you to go to Aurangpura. Okay, I ask you, we were in the Department of Physics, and I ask you to go to Aurangpura and bring some um, uh, like microresearch book from one bookstore from Aurangpura. This is the task given to you. So what you will be doing, you will be going to either you will be hiring, taxi and reaching to the Aurangpura, or if you are having your own vehicle, you will be, taking your own vehicle and going to the Aurangpura. Let us now, since you are very much familiar to the path to be followed to reach Aurangpura, you are not going to ask anybody how to reach, right? Because there would be in between, whenever you will be reaching Aurangpura, on the way there would be many intersections, right? On and at every intersection, you will have to take either left turn, right turn, or you will have to go straight. So usually what we do whenever we are in the intersection, usually we always think like which turn should I take, whether I should take left turn, right turn, or should I go straight. Now, if you are familiar with the path to be followed, then you are not going to ask anybody. You will be following straight way. Let us say you are in the new city, right? You are in the new city and you are having your own car, right? And nowadays, like we have got GPS system, the GPS navigation. So you can switch on your GPS navigation in your phone, and you are least bothered. You put the destination address, and then that navigation will take you to the destination. So whenever you will be at intersection, the navigation, that person who will be advising you or guiding you, will be telling you to take left turn or right turn or go straight or whatever. Okay. Sometimes what happens, let us say you are just following sequential instruction. You are following sequential instruction. Like go to sequential instruction means, like what would be sequence could be go to the gate of the department, and then go to the university gate. Okay, then next would be go to the Panchaki, and then go to Aurangpura. Okay, this is the sequential execution. But sometimes, like if you want to reach Aurangpura, you did not follow Panchaki route, right? When you reach to that like Ambedkar Law College, that intersection will provide you two options. You can take left turn and start walking towards Panchaki, and then you can reach Aurangpura. Or you can go straight, go to Milind College, and then the Milind College intersection, and then take left turn, and then go to Aurangpura. So there could be different options, right? So sometimes depending on condition, so there will be condition, right? There will be condition, and depending on that condition, you will be either taking left turn, right turn, or going straight. It means you will be breaking sequential execution. You will be breaking sequential execution. The same thing is going to be true even in case of microprocessor as well. So whenever you will be having 10 different instructions, every time you are not going to execute those instructions sequentially. Sometimes you may need to skip some instruction. Sometimes you may need to skip some instruction, and you need to, let us say, first two, three, one, two, three, and then fourth and fifth you need to skip. You want to go to seventh instruction, and so on and so forth, right? For that purpose, you need instructions which will control the flow of execution. Instruction which will control the flow of execution. This chapter essentially deals with that kind of instruction which will control the flow of execution, and that is why it is called as program control instruction. What does it mean? It means these instructions are going to control the flow of program, control the execution of program. As far as the program control instructions are concerned, there are two different kind of program control instructions: conditional and unconditional. So to begin with, I'm going to tell you unconditional program control instruction. But what is unconditional and what is conditional? Unconditional means you will be taking jump without any condition. you will be taking jump, you will be skipping some instructions during execution without any condition. Whereas in case of conditional transfer control instruction, it would be it depends on some status of flag. Depending on the some condition, you will be skipping some instruction, taking jump. Now, what kind of, what are those instructions which can be executed depending on condition, and what are those instructions which are unconditional instructions that we are going to see one by one. So to begin with, we are going to understand, or we are going to discuss unconditional transfer control instructions. Now, as far as unconditional transfer control instructions are concerned, there are only three unconditional transfer control instructions. One is call, return, and jump. Call, return, and jump. Now, truly speaking, jump always, whenever we are jump is, you are asking your program control to skip some instruction. Okay, let us say you started from instruction 1, 2, and 3. Okay, 1, 2, and 3, and then you want to skip fourth and fifth, and you want your program to jump to the seventh instruction, right? 4, 5, 6 you want to skip, and you want your program execution to jump to seventh instruction, right? For that purpose, you can use jump instruction. Now, if jump is being used to skip some of the instructions, then what would be role of call instruction, right? But name itself indicates call instructions will be used to call the subroutine. Call instruction will be used to call the subroutine. Now, what is subroutine? Subroutine is basically a part of main program. Subroutine is basically part of main program, which is being used for a specific task, which is being used for specific task. Like, for example, let us say you have got a very big program in which you are going to perform addition oftenly. Oftenly means, like, let us say in one particular program, you are going to perform addition for 10 number of times. You are going to perform addition for 10 number of times. Now, if for addition, if you need 5 instructions, for example, for doing addition, you need 5 instructions. Then what you have to do? You have to write those 5 instructions 10 number of times. So 5 multiplied by 10, your total number of instructions would be 50 plus the main whatever the instructions you will be having in the main program. Okay, so this 50 instruction will be added. Let us say in main program, if there are 10 instructions, so 10 plus 50, that would be 60. Rather, instead of that, if you are using this addition 10 number of times in one program, why don't you put at one place? Okay, that can be referred as subroutine, and you can call that subroutine as and when it is required, so that you can minimize the complexity of the program. Length of program can be substantially decreased, and it will be more easier for execution as well and understanding purpose as well. And that for that purpose, we always define some subroutine, and whenever you want to call the subroutine, you need to use call instruction. Okay, now there is a fundamental difference between call and jump instruction that we will discuss in due course of time. Right at this moment, I'm not going to discuss this. And third one is return. You can have conditional return as well as unconditional return. Okay, so as far as unconditional return is concerned, whenever we are talking about the return means, like that the name itself indicates, return means you want something to return back. You want something to return back. So what is to be returned back as far as microprocessor is concerned? The control of program execution. Like whenever you are calling subroutine means, like let us say you have got main program of 10 lines, and then there is a small subroutine which consisting of 5 instructions, right? So, and then at fifth you have used call instruction. So call means you will be calling the subroutine. It means the control will transfer from this main program to your subroutine. So once that subroutine is executed, if there are 5 number of instructions, once those 5 number of instructions are executed, then at the end of subroutine, control should return back to main program, right? And therefore, there should be a return statement at the end of subroutine. So the return statement will cause the transfer of control from subroutine to the main program. Okay, now how it is going to happen, that we will see in detail, but this is generalized idea I thought I should give you right in the beginning. So there are three different unconditional instructions called return and jump. We are going to discuss those three instructions in detail. Let us start with jump instruction first. Now, as far as this unconditional jump I'm talking about, right? As far as unconditional jump instruction is concerned, there are three different kinds of jump instruction: short jump, near jump, and far jump. जैसे कि हमारा कंपटीशन होती है ना, उसमें होता है कि शॉर्ट जंप, लॉन्ग जंप एंड नियर शॉर्ट जंप एंड लॉन्ग जंप कंपटीशन. We usually have this kind of competitions in our colleges and universities, right? Similarly, here also there are three different kinds of instruction: short jump, near jump, and far jump. Now, what is the difference between these three instructions? Let me tell you. Short jump is a 2-byte instruction, and that allows jump or branches to memory location plus or minus 128, precisely plus 127 and minus 128. It means this is essentially 2-byte instruction. Short jump is essentially 2-byte instruction. Now, out of these 2 byte, 1 byte is going to be opcode, and other byte would be the displacement. One is opcode, other is going to be displacement. Okay, I'm going to tell you in detail again short jump. First of all, let me finish this quickly. Then second is near jump. As far as near jump instruction is concerned, near jump is 3-byte instruction. Near jump is 3-byte instruction that allows a branch or jump within plus or minus 32k byte of byte from instruction in the current code segment. We are talking about current code segment only. Okay, so near jump instruction will allow you to jump within 32 kilobyte. Okay. Okay. Now, out of these 3 byte, why it is 32, that I'm going to tell you in detail later. In 3 out of these 3 byte, first byte is going to be operational code, and remaining 2 bytes is going to be the displacement. Okay, and third one is far jump. Far jump is 5-byte instruction, which allows jump to any location within the real memory system. Now, why it is called real memory system? Because whenever we are talking about real memory, then you need to have offset address as well as the base address. Offset address as well as base address. Because segment address, we usually call it a segment address, base address or segment address. Because we know the entire memory of 8086 based microprocessor has been divided into 4 logical memory group, right? Segment rather, 4 segment, if you remember: code segment, data segment, extra segment, and the stack segment. And each segment is going to provide you 64 kilobyte of memory. Each segment is going to provide you 64 kilobyte of memory. Okay, and since it is 64 kilobyte, we need 16 bit. We need a 16 bit. 2 to the power 16 gives you 64k. But in reality, it is 1 megabyte memory, because we have got 20 bit in address bus, right? So 20 means 2 to the power 20 means 1 megabyte. This is real memory. Whenever we are talking about short jump and near jump, that would be that both statements, these both statements, short jump and near jump statement, will allow you to jump within the same code segment, within the code same 64k, within the 64k only. Whereas far jump would allow you to branch or jump in within the real memory system. I mean, throughout the memory system, right? 1 megabyte. Now, if you want your program execution to jump from code segment, controller program execution from code segment to all the way to, let us say, the data segment, or maybe extra segment, other segment, then what do you need to do? You need you need a segment address as well as offset address. And for segment address, how many bits you need? 16 bit. For offset address, again 16 bit, right? So 16 bit means 2 byte. So 2 byte would be there for segment address. Another 2 bytes should be for offset address. So 2 plus 2, 4. And 1 byte should be for opcode, right? And that is why far jump is 5-byte instruction. Out of this 5 byte, 1 byte is going to be operation code. another 2 bytes is going to be segment address, and third 2 bytes is going to be uh, uh, offset address. Short jump and near jumps are often referred as intra-segment jump. Why it is intra-segment? Because within the segment only, that's why the intra. Within the segment only, you will be able to jump you will be able to flow, transfer your controller program execution. Whereas far jump is inter-segment. That means from one segment to another segment you can jump. That is why it is called as inter-segment. I know with this much information, you will not be able to understand the difference between short jump, near jump, and far jump. That is why I'm going to take some examples now. Now, as far as short jump is concerned, short jump is called as a relative jump because they can be moved with related software to any location in the current code segment. Okay, so since it is in the current code segment, it is being referred as a relative jump segment. Jump address is not stored with the opcode. A distance or displacement follows the opcode. I mean, uh, 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 this is basically 2 byte instruction. As I mentioned earlier, this is a 2 byte instruction. Okay. Example. Let me tell you whether I have mentioned example. No. Let me quote here even example so that you will be able to understand. Okay. The example could be 23, 25H. Okay. Okay. Example would be jump 25H. Okay. Now, first of all, let me tell you it is 2 byte instruction. First byte is opcode as I mentioned earlier, and second byte is going to be displacement. So this is what jump displacement, and there will be one opcode for the jump keyword because keyword is the jump is keyword. JMP jump is keyword, right? And this keyword, there would be one operation code for keyword and another code would be for displacement. That is why it is only 2 byte instruction. Now 1 byte displacement means maximum hex number could be FF. Like this number could be FF because since it is 1 byte, minimum could be 00, maximum could be FF. So FF is equivalent to 255 decimal. FF is equal to 255 decimal. But if you really want to, if this is signed number, right? If it is unsigned number, it can be, sorry, if it is unsigned number, it would be 255. And if it is signed number, it will be plus or minus 127 or 128. Plus, to be more precise, plus 127 and minus 128. If you are having FF as if you are having 8-bit displacement. Therefore, short jump displacement is a distance represented by 1 byte sign number whose value ranges from plus 127 to minus 128. Now, how this plus 127 and minus 28, that I am going to tell you. This is example of unsigned numbers, 1 byte long. Example of unsigned numbers, 1 byte long. 1 byte long means 8 bit. 1 byte long means 8 bit. Now, since it is 8 bit, 2 to the power 8, if we calculate this, it will be a 256. 2 to the power 8 would be 256. So there will be 256 possible combination. So you can see 2 to the power 0, 2 to the power 1, 2 to the power 2, 2 to the power 2 means 4, 2 to the power 3 means 8, 2 to the power 4 means 16, 5 means 32, like that, right? So if you keep on calculating, so 2 to the power 8 will comes around 256. So there would be 256 possible combination. So including 0. So 00 equivalent to 0 and FF equivalent to 255. FF is equivalent to 255. You can see here this 00 is hex number. 00 is hex number. And binary equivalent is 00000000. And which decimal equivalent is 1. Similarly 01 x 01, this is going to be binary equivalent and this is decimal equivalent. Like that, if you keep on adding one by one, so you will reach 7f. 7f is equivalent to, you can see, 0 1 1 1 1 1 1 1. This is equivalent to 127. And if we add 1 to that, 1 followed by 3 0 and then 4 0, 1 0 0 0 0 0 0 0. This is equivalent to 128 decimal 80h hex, and binary is going to be like this. Like that, FF is going to be 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1. This is equivalent to 255. It means there will be 256 combination including 0. First combination is 0. Okay. Now here, if you look at this, as I mentioned earlier, if your displacement is 8 bit, if your displacement is 8 bit, you can have maximum 256 combination as far as unsigned number is concerned. Whereas as far as signed number is concerned, then because you have to reserve one bit for sign. You have to reserve one bit for sign, right? You can see 0 0 is a decimal number, and binary number is going to be 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 0, right? Out of this 8 bit, one bit is going to be, after 10 minutes there will be break. So what I mean, this one bit is going to be MSB, rather most significant bit is going to be reserved for sign bit. So how many bits remain then? 7 only. So 2 to the power 7 is equal to 128. 2 to the power 7 is equal to 128. So like this, 0 1 is going to be 1 plus 1. This is going to be 0 0 0 0 0 1 0 is going to be plus 2, because 0 indicate plus and 1 indicate minus. Like that, 7f. 7 means 0 1 1 1 1 1 1 1. This is equivalent to 127 plus. Okay, and then if you add 1 to this will give you 1 0 0 0 0 0 0 0, which is equivalent to, because this is negative, this is negative. As far as 0 is concerned, there is no question of sign. But if you add 1 to it, this gives you 1 0 0 0 0 0 0 1. This 1 indicates minus sign, so you have minus 1, minus, and then 0 0 0 0 0 0 1 is minus 1. So like that, this would 82 is going to be minus 2, and so on and so forth. FF is going to be minus 128. It is going to be minus 127 rather. So this is how we call it as a plus or minus 127. Plus or minus 127. That is why I said, if you remember the first statement, short jump allows the branching locations between plus or minus 127. Plus or minus 127. So this is how the plus or minus 127 can be done. Okay. This is again example. Now in this case, you can see this is the example rather. Jump 04. Jump 04. Now there are two ways. One could be this 04 would indicate how many instruction to be skipped. 04 indicate how many instruction to be skipped. Now you can see here, as far as JMP is concerned, as far as program is concerned, you are not going to write JMP. JMP is going to be mnemonics. But in machine language, there will be operation code equivalent to JMP. So you will be writing JMP, equivalent operation code for JMP, that would be first byte. Second byte 04 is going to be your displacement, right? So let us say this is real memory map. This is a real memory map. So at 1 followed by 40, this is the first memory location at which you are going to give code equivalent to jump, and next memory location will be 04 displacement, right? So usually, you know, the meaning of IP, I mean the role of IP. What is the role of IP? Role of IP is to keep a track of program execution. Role of IP is to keep track of program execution. So how does it will keep a track of program execution? Whenever you will be doing experiment, you have to follow some procedure for execution, right? During that procedure, whenever you will be pressing execution key, before that key, you have to enter the starting address of your program. You have to enter starting address of the program. What does that indicate? That indicates that you are going to take your microprocessor control to that memory location from which the program has been stored, right? So what will happen then? Let us say it is 10,000. So the first memory location is going to be 10,000. Okay, and then once that is executed, automatically IP is going to be incremented by 1. Once it is executed, it will be incremented by 1. Okay, so like that, after execution of days, IP content of IP is going to be 10,002. That is why you can see IP is going to be, now here it is not going to be 10,002. Why? Why it is not going to be 10,002? Because 10,002 is going to be the real memory address. IP will not be able to accommodate 20 bit. IP will be able to accommodate only 16 bit. And IP will always carry offset address. We know offset address. The base address is going to be in code segment. There are 4 segments which are being used to keep the track of base address, right? Since we are dealing with code memory, CS is going to be 1000. And you can see now 1000, how physical address is to be calculated. You have to multiply 10, CS to be multiplied by 10, it will become 10,000, and add 0002 to the lowest 4 digit. So that is going to be result into 10,002. Okay, this next. Okay, now what would be new IP? New IP is going to be IP plus 4. So whatever IP it was earlier plus 4. Because why? Because here jump 4 means, 4 instructions are to be, 4 locations are to be skipped. So like this 1, 2, 3 and 4. These 4 are to be skipped, and therefore program execution will jump here. These 4 instructions will be skipped, and therefore IP is going to be IP plus 4. So new by IP address is going to be 0006 offset address. This is going to be IP address means offset address, right? So this is how it is to be. I know you might be having some questions, and therefore soon after this we'll take your questions as well. The near jump. Okay, as far as near jump is concerned, near jump passes control to an instruction in the current code segment within the plus or minus 32 byte of memory, plus or minus 32k, 32 kilobyte. Now, as far as near statement is concerned, near jump is concerned, it is 3 byte instruction, as I told you earlier. 3 out of 3 byte, 1 byte is going to be used for opcode. Remaining 2 bytes are being used for displacement. 2 byte means 16 bit. Now, since it is 2 byte, you can see what would be displacement. It is going to be, it's going to be 32k. How? You can see. Uh, uh, yes, here. You can see here. This is example of unsigned 2 byte long number. 2 byte number, unsigned number, 2 byte long. 2 byte long means 2 to the power 16. 2 to the power 16 means if you calculate 2 to the power 16, that is going to be 65,536, popularly called as 64k. The actual number is going to be 65,536. Popularly, it would be 64k, right? So there would be 64k possible combinations. 64k possible combinations, like 0000, first hex address. Equivalent binary would be these zeros, for another 40, 440, and then another 40. Total 16 bit, and this is equal to decimal 0, then 1, like that. 7 FFF. This is going to be 32,767 or plus 32k. And we're talking, this is unsigned number, right? Then 8,000 would be 32,768. This is 67. This is going to be 68. Like that, we keep on adding all F means 111111111111111. This is going to be equivalent to 65,536, which is popularly called as 64k. Whereas as far as sign numbers are concerned, again, as I mentioned earlier, MSB 1 bit is going to be reserved for sign, right? So you have got remaining 15 numbers only out of 16. One is going to be reserved for sign. So what will happen then? we will have only 15 bit for magnitude. 1 bit is being used for sign, 15 for magnitude, 2 to the power 50, 15 is it is 32k. If you calculate this 2 to the power 0, 1, 2, 3 like this, 2 to the power 15 will be resulting into 32k possible positions. And you can see here, okay, this is positive numbers. 7FF is going to be 32,767, and once it is, because since MSB is 0, is going to be positive number, and then one if you add 1 to this number, you will be getting this number. This is actually 8,000 H, but it is going to be 0 because this is going to be sign number, and then 8001, this is minus, this indicates minus, okay, minus, and then the remaining magnitude of the remaining number is going to be 1, so minus 1, like that. This is going to be f is going to be minus 32k, and that is why if you are having displacement of 2 byte, you are going to branch, or you will be allowing, I mean, microbuzzer will jump within plus or minus 32k. I hope you must have understood this. Is going to be terminated soon now, and then you have to join again. So, and then for instruction, for obtains